Hey, welcome back to Legal Lessons. My name is Tory. For me, at least, one of the most shocking news stories of the year 2020 was when we learned that Megan Thee Stallion was allegedly shot by Tory Lanez in the Hollywood Hills, right in the middle of hot girl summer. This occurred on July 12, 2020, while Megan and Tory were allegedly riding in an SUV in the Hollywood Hills after leaving Kylie Jenner's house. They somehow ended up outside of the vehicle, and at that point, it's alleged that Tory Lanez shot Megan, wounding her in the foot. Detectives from the scene who took the initial interviews testified at the hearing that Megan saw Tory with a gun. Shortly thereafter, she heard several shots and eventually felt pain in her foot. According to the officer, she described her injuries at that point as bleeding profusely. During the December 2021 hearing, Tory's attorney gave a couple glimpses into his possible defense, which is that Megan's friend, Kelsey, who was also in the SUV, was actually the one who got into a physical altercation with Megan and was potentially the one who actually shot her. Tory Lanez's lawyer advanced this argument by his questioning, essentially asking detectives about gunpowder residue that was found on Kelsey and not on Tory. During the hearing, detectives clarified that gunshot residue can be transferred onto someone based off of their vicinity and closeness to a shot when it's fired. But more details are to come as his case goes forward to trial. Following this hearing, the judge decided that Tory Lanez should stand trial and face these criminal charges. Back on October 8th, 2020, Tory Lanez was formally charged with one count of assault with a semi-automatic firearm in a manner that personally inflicted great bodily injury, and one count of carrying a concealed, loaded, and unregistered firearm in a vehicle. Tory Lanez pled not guilty on November 18, 2020, and was released on a $190,000 bond as he waits for his trial date. Tory Lanez is currently facing a maximum penalty of 22 years and 8 months in prison if convicted of the charges that he's facing. Now, while he paid this $190,000 in order to be free until his trial date, he was released with certain restrictions and requirements. One of which was to stay away from Megan Thee Stallion as their case pens and they wait for the trial date. This week's legal lesson is going to focus on protective injunctions as a condition of release while someone is pending a trial date. Oftentimes, while people are facing criminal charges, a court will decide to release them until their trial date. This is called PreTrial Release. A lot of times, the person is released with a number of conditions attached to their release. For example, some of the conditions that can be imposed on release are that the person can be released on a house arrest monitor, the person can be released on a cash bail. In this case, he paid $190,000 to be released. Another condition is sometimes there's a stay away order. That's exactly what we're talking about here. It's also called a protective injunction. Now, the reason the court imposes conditions on release is the idea is that the court wants to make sure of a couple things. Some of the main things is that one, the person is going to return to court and stand trial for the charges they're accused of. That's the first thing that the court wants to make sure is that the person is not a flight risk, right? And the second thing that the court wants to make sure of when they're imposing these conditions is that the victim or other people, society as a whole, is safe and not at any further risk of harm or danger by this person being released. Hence the need for protective orders, stay away orders, and injunctions. Now, I must say, as a former criminal defense attorney, I am an advocate of pretrial release under the right conditions to ensure everyone's safety. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Tory was released, and as a part of his release, the conditions were that he had to pay a $190,000 in bail, and he also had a very strict stay away order. The judge ordered that he was to stay away from Meg at least 100 yards. These type of release conditions and provisions are in place in order to make sure that victims are protected as people are released from jail as they pen their day in trial. It's meant to prevent further harassment and any threat of danger or harm to the victim. The court also wants to discourage any type of contact between the parties as they wait for the trial date. Now, while these conditions, especially understanding that they are conditions of release, meaning that if you violate these conditions, you can be sent right back to jail where you will have to remain until your trial date. Now, while these conditions seem simple enough, trust me and take my word when I say people always violate them.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Now, if you ask me, I think that these frequent violations are due to people thinking that they're really clever and I can get right up to the line of what's allowed and not cross it. Now, this is something that I would never do, but a lot of people like to gamble. And just like many other people before him, Tory Lanez got in trouble for violating his stay away order from Megan Thee Stallion as they awaited their day in court. Prosecutors say that Tory Lanez is in violation of his stay away order because he attended the Rolling Loud concert in Miami and attempted to rush the stage while she was there performing. He later came back out at the concert and rushed the stage in a costume as the baby was performing his song that he has with Megan Thee Stallion called Crybaby. Now, I'm sure, just like Tory, some of you might be thinking that that's not technically a violation of his stay away order. He didn't personally contact her. He didn't intentionally make contact with her. But I'm here to tell you that unfortunately, slick is never slick enough. If you have these type of orders, thinking that you found a loophole or a way to get close up to the line without crossing it never really works. As a result of this violation of his stay away order and violation of the condition of his release, Tory Lanez could have very well been taken back into custody and held there without release until the day of his trial. But instead, the judge hiked up his bail, the amount of money he paid, from $190,000 to $250,000 as a punishment for his violation of the stay away order. Luckily for him, he had the money to pay the increased bail, but had he not, he would have been sitting in custody until his trial date. According to court records, Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion's next court date on this matter is January 13, 2022 at 8:30 in the morning. So please comment down below. Let me know, what are your predictions for this case? What do you think the likely outcome is? Do you think that he was in violation for going to Rolling Loud and performing even though he didn't intentionally contact her? Do you think release conditions are necessary? How do you feel about pretrial release? A lot of questions. Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, hit that notification bell so that you're notified when I upload another video. As you know, this is a developing story, so we will be right here at Legal Lessons to update you as soon as there's more to know. Until next time, stay safe and out of trouble.